Yes, people, welcome back to GNA TV and Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you guys are having a lovely day. It has been very, very hot in. Got a bit of feedback there. Sorry about that. It has been very, very hot in and around England, specifically, especially if you are from England at the moment. But we are here to talk about Chelsea, everything Chelsea. There is one player that everyone seems to want to know information on, about which we'll be delving into in Jules Kounde. There's going to be a bit about Azpilicueta, Alonso, Kimpembe, Frenkie de Jong as well. But make sure, guys, that you're smashing the likes on both GNA TV and Chelsea Fan TV. Let's get this over 200 likes on both channels, please, guys. And before we introduce Ben, let's cue that. Yes, people, welcome back to GNA TV and Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you guys are all well. Ben Jacobs is with us today. How are we doing, Ben?
I'm good. Cooling off after 40-degree heat pretty much across all of the UK.
Yeah, it's been unbearable, hasn't it? I think it's always harder when you get the heat like that in this country, because you haven't got like the swimming pool or the beach just to lay around, have you? When you're on holiday, you can kind of bear it, but in England, it's horrible. You're just stuck at home, or you're in an office working, and it just becomes so. You don't know what to do with yourself half the time. But yeah, let's move on, guys. Big up to everyone that's in the chat already. Good to see you all in here. If you have got any questions, we'll try and bring them up as we go along. Quite a bit to go through as well. But let's get into it. And we will get into Kounde in a bit, guys. But I want to start obviously off with Azpilicueta, who it seems very weird with this one, Ben, because it seems like Thomas Tuchel's made it clear that he kind of would like to keep Azpilicueta in the squad, whether it's for squad rotation or depth. But on other signs, it seems like Xavi's very clear that he would like Azpilicueta at the football club as well. I mean, is there any real new news on Azpilicueta?
Well, I think that Azpilicueta and Kounde are somewhat intertwined in the sense that if Chelsea get Kounde, then there'll be enough defensive reinforcements to sell Azpilicueta, and Chelsea are holding out for a fee of around about 7 million. And Barcelona have always been quite optimistic about getting Azpilicueta, perhaps more so than Alonso at this stage. But if Kounde ends up at Barcelona, then Chelsea are less likely to sell Azpilicueta imminently until they find a replacement. And this is the transfer window all over. And Chelsea's strategy, having already had some outgoings like Rudiger and Lukaku, don't want to let too many leave, particularly not their defenders, before they've got some form of cover or replacement found. So I think that Azpilicueta to Barcelona is likely. It's relatively imminent. And if Chelsea succeed in getting Kounde, then Azpilicueta will go quite quickly. But if they don't, then he's more likely to stay at the football club for a bit longer. And credit to Azpilicueta as well, because he's been a model professional. He's made it clear what his desire is to join Barcelona, but he's not tried to force his way out. There's no acrimony, and he's acceptant of the reality of the situation. He sees firsthand that the defense is still a little bit thin. He loves playing at Chelsea. He's been a loyal servant to the football club. So that plays into Chelsea's advantage, because they can use him, and if they need to, run down the contract without having the player create any friction within the dressing room or between himself and the manager. Whereas I think with Alonso, he's just more intent to leave, and that's a harder sell at the moment because of the fee and various negotiations. So that's on the back burner from Barcelona's perspective, more so than Azpilicueta, whereas Azpilicueta has been discussed now multiple times directly between Todd Boehly and Laporta. It's just a case of timing. I think by the end of the window, he'll leave Chelsea and he will join Barcelona. But first and foremost, Chelsea want incomings in defence before they sanction any outgoing.
Fair enough. To be honest, as a Chelsea fan, I've always thought that Azpilicueta and Alonso would leave. And obviously, you mentioned Alonso being more complicated at the moment for various reasons. I think that's one player that Chelsea fans actually want to see leave. To be honest, Chilwell's back in. I think squad rotation is important, but the likes of people like Emerson, who seem like they're probably going to stay at this football club, doesn't really make sense to have both Emerson, Alonso, and Chilwell all at the football club. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them as well. Just going on to the midfield very quickly. Jorginho and Kante were another two that were obviously got sort of like, last year's on their contracts as well. Obviously, it looks like they both may stay potentially. Is there any news in and around them two that you've heard on them, or does it seem like that they're going to probably be around?
Chelsea are planning for both. It really is as simple as that. And why wouldn't they? Because Jorginho offers a lot, including from dead ball situations. And N'Golo Kante is always able to win balls back and anchor from deep within midfield. And I know that fans may say, well, they need replacing in the long term, but in the short term, it's all about keeping that nucleus and adding in other positions. So midfield is not the priority because both players are willing to stay. And even though there's been interest from Juventus in Jorginho, I think that the advantage of signing Koulibaly, who Jorginho knows and is very friendly with, is that that keeps him settled at the football club. So I don't anticipate anything imminent, but the way the window works is that it will lull a little bit through the middle part once we get to the first game of the season, and managers will assess what they've got. And then it will pick up again, obviously, in the few weeks before it closes. And as you get a merry-go-round of movement, that's when some later offers for one or both of those players might come in. But for now, Chelsea are planning to keep both as integral squad players, even if they don't start every game. And with Kante, there's been no interest from other Premier League clubs. The talk of an Arsenal move was total rumour. There was nothing to it. And he may want to return home at some point. But for now, my understanding is that both Jorginho and Kante are very settled. And the thing about the Chelsea ownership group is in the long term, they are going to look to get outgoings to reduce the wage bill and then freshen up the squad a little bit, to prioritise young talent like Kounde, and to try and get a little bit of a sort of merit-based system around the squad and what they earn. I'm talking solely in financial terms when I describe this. And there's some of the older players at the club, Kante in particular, nothing to do with him as an individual. He's liked, he gives it his all. He's a legendary Chelsea player and a great Leicester icon, by the way, as well. But unfortunately for him, he falls into that category of being very high up on the wage bill, and that is what the ownership group are looking at. And this is, I think, where Clearlake come in, and fans may not like me saying this, but Clearlake are not necessarily looking at footballers as footballers and what they bring on the football field. They're also assessing the squad, and they're looking at two numbers: what is the player's age and what is the player's base wage? And that's where there'll be a series of players towards the latter parts of their career that may become, in the next window or two, surplus to requirements to balance and lower the base wage bill, and then make the Chelsea squad more incentive driven. In other words, you might be earning less as a base wage when you come in than perhaps you asked for, but if you perform, then everything will spike up and you'll earn a whole lot more. And Kante may be one name because he's so high on the wage bill that over time Chelsea do look to get rid of, less for any transfer fee or because there's a huge desire not to factor him into the squad, but more just because if you just judge it on cold, hard financials, he's earning a lot of money, perhaps over time, comparative to his day-to-day role in the team.
Fair enough. In terms of the incomings, obviously you spoke about Jorginho and Kante being two players that look like they're going to be staying. Frenkie de Jong is a bit of an unusual one because obviously it seems like he's turned away Man United. It's made it clear that he wants to stay at Barcelona. Then there was talks yesterday that potentially Chelsea could be interested in Frenkie de Jong. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, de Jong was spoken about directly between Laporta and Todd Boehly, and the Chelsea interest, loosely speaking, is genuine, but they've not advanced anything, and midfield is not the priority comparative to other positions at this stage. So it's one to watch during the window. Chelsea are aware from the Manchester United negotiations of the ballpark price that they would have to pay, around 65 million euros up front, plus add-ons taking it well above 80 million euros. But the approach from Chelsea is to learn lessons from the Manchester United debacle. So both Chelsea and Bayern Munich, if they proceed, and it is still an if to reiterate, would be going directly to the player first to work out whether or not he is prepared to leave. And there's all kinds of conflicting reports, from Laporta saying in public he's not for sale to De Jong saying Barcelona's his dream club. And yet at the same time, what Laporta does in public and private are two completely different things. And it is absolutely true that Laporta is saying to clubs, if you want to make an offer for De Jong, we will listen, which is in stark contrast to his public comments that say the player is not for sale. And the reason why De Jong is being, loosely speaking, offered out is because Barcelona are still considering a possible move for Bernardo Silva. And if they are to proceed with that, and it's complicated, then they would need the De Jong transfer fee, even with the activation of the second lever, which is imminent, and more money that Barcelona can spend on transfers. So Chelsea, I suppose a bit like with Dembele, are intrigued by De Jong, certainly a player that Thomas Tuchel admires, but they've not done anything with that interest. I know there's reports out there at the moment that say Chelsea are preparing some kind of formal offer. That's not true at this stage. It could move relatively fast and quickly, but the reality of the situation is Chelsea will not do anything, whether that's acting quickly or slowly or monitoring or waiting, until they know for sure, because of the Manchester United situation, what De Jong's position is. And at the moment, De Jong is still reticent to leave Barcelona. He doesn't want to take the pay cut, and he's under contract, so he doesn't really have to. But in an ideal world, he would like to stay at Barcelona, and that's why Chelsea would have to do some convincing. So whereas Manchester United first went to Barca and had meticulous negotiations to just get a fee, only to learn that De Jong isn't that keen. He still could be persuaded, but at the moment, not that keen. Chelsea would want to know categorically that De Jong is open to a move before proceeding. So I would classify the interest as genuine at this point, but not advanced.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense as well. To be honest, I don't think Frenkie de Jong is a player that Chelsea will bring in this summer specifically. I know there's a lot of talking and around Chelsea potentially looking at the midfield area, and Tuchel's love for Declan Rice, someone that we've spoke about before on here as well. And again, I don't see something like that happening soon. I know there's a lot of Chelsea fans out there, especially on Twitter and Spaces, that feel that the central area, the DM area, is very important for us moving forward in terms of being able to alternate and switch our system. So at the moment, being stuck on the 3, some Chelsea fans want to see the 4, but to have that 4 system, they do feel that you need to have that sort of better sitting DM in that position. And maybe Jorginho, or they feel that Jorginho is not the type of player that can play that role, even though we've seen it under Italy to a degree. I don't think preferably that is something I would want to see as a Chelsea fan. But ultimately, it again goes back to Chelsea not probably being able to sort out all of the positions that are required in one summer window. And it's just going to involve a lot of patience as Chelsea fans to see how Bowley and Tuchel try and operate in the coming windows. Before we get on to the Jules Kounde news, I know everyone in the chat's talking about Kounde. But we'll get into Jules Kounde very, very soon, guys. But make sure that you're all smashing the likes. Over 600 of you guys here as well. Let's get this up to 200 likes, please, as quickly as we possibly can. I want to talk, obviously we're going to talk Kounde, we're going to get into Kimpembe as well, but just a quick little thought on your thoughts on Broja, because obviously he came back and everyone thought, why is he coming back? Is there an English club that's sort of got his interest? And then we find out from Tuchel that he's carrying a bit of an injury, why he sent him back. Tuchel's made it clear that he feels that he wants him a part of the squad moving forward. West Ham very keen, apparently, Ben, on signing this player. Any news around Broja? What's your thoughts as of what you've heard in regards to in regards to Broja?
Broja, as I always have reported, is a intriguing situation because Chelsea's position has been very clear that they don't want to sell the player and they see him as part of their long-term plans. And the aim was always to assess him in pre-season, but unfortunately he was late out to the tour and then picked up a knock. So Thomas Tuchel hasn't seen him play a lot of football, which means that Chelsea are largely going on what they've seen from his Southampton loan spell. The challenge with Broja comparative to, say, Levi Colwill, is that the player himself, having got a taste of game time Premier League football, is intent on being integral somewhere. That's not to say it has to be today, but Chelsea need to sell Broja a pathway to first team football over the course of the next season or two. And if he's to stay at the football club, he wants to know his involvement this season. How many games is he going to play? Is he going to be a regular bench player? How does he fit in with Raheem Sterling? Is there another attacker in his position that's going to come in and he's going to be forced down the pecking order? And obviously Colwill is thinking about that as well, because he's hearing that Chelsea are looking to sign multiple other defenders. So Broja is a bit of a challenge. And Tuchel's position has always been clear that he doesn't want to sell. But Broja's position is that he would rather not go out on loan again, and that a permanent deal is the right move for his career. So talks are going to be needed when Chelsea get back from America, or remotely if it becomes more imminent, to establish a compromise, because Chelsea want to be respectful of Broja's position. But at the same time, if they are to sell on a permanent deal to West Ham, they'll be reluctant sellers. And Tuchel has made it clear now that he doesn't want Broja to leave. So West Ham's position in all of this, which is also very important, is that they really want a permanent deal for a fee of around £30 million, as I've previously reported. And they're still waiting to see whether Chelsea will sanction that. And they're hoping that the buy-in of the player in pushing for that permanent move might be a decisive factor. But Tuchel and Broja still have to have more in-depth conversations. And Broja may be convinced to stay at Chelsea, or even potentially go out on loan if there is that clear pathway back to the first team. So it's quite a fluid situation. And West Ham, by the way, are not the only club chasing Broja. Newcastle have looked at him. Everton are monitoring the situation, but West Ham are the most advanced. So the most likely scenario is that Chelsea, at this stage anyway, will have to choose between a permanent sale or convincing Broja how the pathway to the first team is clear enough and specific enough that he is prepared to stay or wait. And it's a fine balance, because, as I say, Broja scored 6 Premier League goals, 8 in all competitions for Southampton. And I think he feels he can do a job for another Premier League side. So it's one to watch, but an exit is by no means guaranteed. But it is absolutely true that that is what the player is pushing for. But Thomas Tuchel is doing everything he possibly can not to sell Broja on a permanent deal, because of how highly he rates him and because of his potential in the long term.
Interesting one, because a lot of Chelsea fans again feel that this is an opportunity for Broja to actually get some minutes in this team, and whether it involves squad rotation with Kai Havertz, ideally it makes a lot of sense for him to stay and be given that opportunity. I don't see why in himself that he wouldn't feel that he's not going to get enough game time, unless he wants to be playing day in, day out, every game starting, which, don't get me wrong, he's fine. But when you're a young player in this Chelsea team, I think it's always important that you realise that you're going to have to fight for your positions. I remember 10, 15 years ago when we had the midfield of Essien, Makelele, Lampard, Deco and Ballack. And, you know, the amount of quality we had on the bench and on the pitch at the same time was good. But it was also good in the fact that we always had them always competing for positions. And I just feel that, you shouldn't, in theory, come into Chelsea thinking that you can be able to just walk into this team. You should be able to be fighting for your position, show the manager what you can provide. And this is why, interestingly, I know someone's asked me about this guy, which to be honest, I don't really think there's much going on. There's been talks apparently from certain Chelsea journals that Gravadar is still on Tuchel's list and potentially Chelsea could look at him. But also Levi Colwill. I mean, just a quick one on that before we got onto Jules Kounde. What's your thoughts on Levi Colwill? Do you think he will stay at Chelsea even if we sign Jules Kounde, or do you think there might be an issue with him potentially going the other way?
Yeah, I think Colwill is an interesting one. Just before I answer that on Broja, the other thing to bear in mind is that he just really liked the fit, tactically speaking, playing for Southampton in predominantly a 4-4-2, where he was on the left side of attack and players like, say, Che Adams were on the right, and then naturally a James Ward-Prowse and a Romeo in that central position. And he was fed by El Yunusi and often Kyle Walker-Peters. So there's a clear means of fitting him and he really enjoyed that central left side of attack. Obviously, with Thomas Tuchel, the formation is different, and the challenge for Broja is that if it isn't a front two, even if it's potentially more than the front two, because it could be like a 3-4-3, or even if Tuchel reverts to a back four, a 4-3-3, plus, of course, the favoured formation of the 3-4-2-1 and so on. So there's all these different formations that Tuchel's tried. And I think Broja is just trying to work out, well, if Havertz is the most forward player, or if Sterling is the focal point, and then if Pulisic and Werner and Ziyech are still there for now, although Ziyech is still likely to get his move to Milan, and then what more comes in, then who is that one more? And is that one more a Lewandowski-style player or a Rafinha-style player? And I think Broja just needs to understand from Thomas Tuchel exactly where he is in the pecking order before any final decisions are made. But West Ham are lurking. And then with Colwill, there's lots of interest. And obviously, he also wants that clarity, because he's hearing that there's going to be 2 centre-backs coming in, plus Koulibaly, plus Silva. Azpilicueta can potentially be replaced by a fullback as well, who maybe can be versatile enough to play in central defence too. So then Colwill needs to establish where he fits in the pecking order. But it's not true, as I understand it, that he's ever asked to leave the football club. So there is a difference between Broja and Colwill, because Broja is very intent on getting his future resolved fast, whereas Colwill is more bought in to the long-term pathway at Chelsea Football Club. So, of course, if an offer comes in, they will consider it. But it's not true that Colwill has actually said, I want to leave the club. What he's actually done is said, can I understand better where I am currently as of now in the pecking order comparative to the squad as is, and comparative to the squad as you are trying to build it. And I think that's very smart, because if he looks at the situation now, there's opportunism because Chelsea are defensively thin. But if in a week or two's time, 2 or 3 defenders were to come in and 2 of them are directly in his position, then there's a real fear that he's not going to get as much game time, at which point he needs to think about whether a loan or a permanent move away is possible. But he's much more sanguine in his disposition. He's bought into a long-term future at Chelsea. However, he needs to have an understanding and appreciation back from Chelsea that they themselves are backing Colwill in the long term. And then I think that he won't want to leave on a permanent deal. But Chelsea are obviously going to have to move fast in 2 respects. One, in getting the replacements in so the full defensive picture is clear for Colwill. And then 2, they're at the same time as waiting to make up the defence and bolster it and factor Colwill into that, very aware that there's a huge amount of interest in the player and there are clubs making inquiries. So I think it's one to watch during the window. But, you know, unlike Broja, to reiterate, Colwill is not trying to force his way out of the football club.
It was funny because a lot of the Chelsea fan base had a meltdown with this whole Colwill thing when he chose that he wanted. Well, from what we were told, it made it sound like he was looking to leave, and now obviously it's sort of been squashed that is the case as well, or he's going to at least wait to see what Todd Boehly and Tuchel do in regards to bringing in players, whether they bring in another 2 additional centre backs along with Koulibaly, whether it's just the one. Some of us feel that a wing back's very important, gone very quiet on there. That Klaus link seems to have disappeared now as well. It's like, what are we going to do? But I want to get into the man of the last 2 days, Jules Kounde. There's been a lot of talks in and around the fact that Chelsea look very close in getting this done. Most of the Chelsea journos are making it sound like it's a case that he could potentially be a Chelsea player as later as today. Some of the Barca journos, some of the bigger Barca journos are making it sound like that he's got personal terms. That the personal terms that Barca have put forward are better than of Chelsea's, but I think where they may be struggling is potentially the fee between the 2 clubs. Before we ask your thoughts on it, and if there's any other updates on it, Ben, we did get this comment here or this tweet about 20 minutes ago from CFC Pies. It's basically said that the Sevilla manager said this morning that Kounde arrived in Sevilla but did not train because his departure is imminent. Today should be the day we get closure, is what he's commented on there. From your opinion, Ben, How close are Chelsea to Jules Kounde?
It's again a very intriguing race. So, as you rightly say, the player hasn't trained. Monchi has already activated a kind of departure protocol, and Sevilla want this wrapped up by Thursday if they possibly can. Not necessarily in 100% sense, but they want to know where they stand before the team travel to Portugal for the next stage of their pre-season. And Kounde actually arrived, by the way, and was asked by fans whether he was leaving. And one or two even said to him, "Thank you for your service at the club." And Kounde simply replied, "Gracias," which again implies that he knows he's off. So the state of play is that Chelsea have had long-standing personal terms agreed with Jules Kounde, so that doesn't need any negotiation, and that's the key difference between Rafinha and Kounde. That Rafinha was open to a Chelsea move, but it never got to the point where Rafinha actually agreed verbally or other to any personal terms, whereas Jules Kounde has agreed to Chelsea's personal terms historically, and they're still in place. He's looked at properties in London during his last visit over, and he is sold by Thomas Tuchel. So Chelsea's sole task is around agreeing a fee with Sevilla, and they are in advanced negotiations. And I think by the end of today, a fee will be in place for something around 60 million euros, maybe a little bit north. Sevilla have tried to hold out for 65 million euros. Chelsea have come in originally at more like 55 million. This is a fee, by the way, inclusive of all add-ons, and the compromise will be around the 60 million euros mark, maybe a touch higher, but something in that ballpark. And Monchi would like to sell to Chelsea, and again has been impressed by the negotiations, which had hit a roadblock. But make no mistake, Chelsea have never given up on Kounde. They've been in constant contact with Sevilla. It's untrue to say that they wanted the player, they moved on to other targets, and then they revisited it. 2 weeks ago, they were in Sevilla, again talking about terms, but there was gridlock. And now I think that because time has passed and because of the Barcelona interest, Sevilla are intent to get a deal done. And I expect Chelsea to agree a fee relatively quickly now, probably by the close of play today, but certainly within the next day or two. And from there, Kounde's got a decision to make because Barcelona's interest is real. They don't want to be in a bidding war. They haven't made a formal offer of any sorts, even a verbal one yet, to Sevilla. But naturally, knowing how Chelsea are progressing, they will, in all likelihood, also make a move. And Sevilla have made it clear to Barcelona that if they make a move, a counter, then they will listen to that as well. So really, for all the negotiation, if both clubs agree a fee, and it isn't a given that Barcelona will bid as high as Chelsea, but if both clubs agree a fee, it will come down to where Jules Kounde wants to go. And that's where we get the conflict of reports, because I've always been told he's very open to a Chelsea move. He's excited by the Premier League. The signing of Koulibaly is an extra little perk because he wants to learn from the player. And yet it is genuinely also clear it isn't just Spanish press trumping it up, that Xavi is courting the player and is pushing very hard as well. So first of all, Barcelona need to make an offer, and then it becomes a straight race and an open race as well. But Chelsea, as of now, are very, very confident in doing everything they can on the negotiation side to put Jules Kounde in a position by tonight or tomorrow morning where he tells them yes or no. And then the ball's in Barcelona's court to see how they respond. So Chelsea are confident, but we know to be wary from the whole Rafinha situation that Barcelona could make a late move.
Yeah, that's the problem for me right now. I am hugely excited with the whole links with Kounde. People know me well enough to know that I've always been a massive fan of him. It's kind of like getting slightly exciting for me how close we are getting to it. But at the same time, in the back of the mind, I still have that Rafinha sort of deal. And I say, even though it isn't the same, it has that feel of the same. And I don't know, to be honest, Ben, if personal terms have been agreed with both, and Chelsea have obviously offered a better fee than what Sevilla have done, surely if Barcelona can't match what Chelsea have done, So there's no way Sevilla are going to entertain that, because Sevilla made it very clear that they're only going to accept what they want. And Kounde's, from what I've understood from reading on Kounde's thoughts in this, is that he's kind of made it clear that providing Sevilla are happy with the fee received from either club, then they'll, he's happy just to sort of go ahead with either or Chelsea or Barcelona. So from the Barcelona perspective, is there any way or any feel that you may think that maybe Xavi himself picking up the phone talking to Kounde, is there any way that this may not happen if you're a Chelsea fan? Do you still feel like, is there still a big percentage that Barcelona could potentially get this done?
Well, we don't know Barcelona's hands. So the main thing is actually not yet about Kounde, even though Barcelona might try and have him reject all other offers and just wait for them. I think that's another key difference with Rafinha, that Kounde is not going to do that. He wants his future resolved ASAP as well. So for Barcelona, it's move or bust at this point. Gone is their time frame to only court the player or wait and see what Chelsea does. If they're going to come in, they've got to come in today and agree, at least verbally, a fee relatively quickly with Sevilla. And one of the reasons why the Sevilla press are so adamant that Kounde is going to be joining Chelsea is because there is a lack of confidence on the Sevilla side that Barcelona will be able to match Chelsea's offer or have the desire to pay that 60 million euros. And Sevilla want a cash-only deal in an ideal world rather than a player swap. And they can hold out for that because they've got Chelsea there at the table in advanced negotiations. So I think that Chelsea are the more advanced. Chelsea at the time of recording are the favourites. But the word of caution is that, as the transfer window always works, fans want a yes or no. But the reality of the situation is that there is no yes or no at this stage until it's clear what Barcelona's offer is. So Sevilla's preference is to sell to Chelsea. Chelsea are in all likelihood going to agree a fee, and Kounde is open to the move. That's all in favour of Chelsea. But Barcelona haven't moved yet. And it's going to be interesting to see if they back off because they don't want to be in a bidding war, or they table a bid. And if they table a bid, that's when the situation will become clearer. So, fans just want to know, is he joining or not? Why can't you tell me if he's joining? Why are you sitting on the fence? Open race. I tell you it's an open race, not because I'm sitting on the fence, but because that is the current state of play. That is the reality of the situation right now. And anybody telling you it is done in one way or the other, unless they are Jules Kounde at this point, is to some extent jumping the gun, because the dynamic of negotiations and the narrative just hasn't played out yet. So Sevilla will wait, or at least give Barcelona the opportunity to make a verbal counter offer so they know the full picture. And that's normal because it could be higher. It could be something they could use as leverage to get more money from Chelsea. They're not just going to shut Barcelona down, not unless Chelsea perhaps offer 65 or more and then get above market value. And that's not looking likely. So this has still got today, and maybe even tomorrow morning, a little bit more narrative to play out. But right now, at the time of recording, Chelsea are confident because they believe that they are the ones that are going to get a deal with Sevilla. And again, unlike with Rafinha, key difference, there is a genuine Chelsea belief that Kounde is not solely holding out for Barcelona. He is intrigued by that move, but he's also open to the Chelsea move. And as a consequence, if Chelsea get everything in place quickly and first, then they believe that they can get Jules Kounde over the line.
100%. And, the one thing I can say is Todd Bowley's moved quite aggressive. When you look at the Koulibaly and maybe the Sterling deal to a degree, he's kind of made it very clear that if Tuchel wants something and he's agreed to it, that they are willing to get it done. I think ultimately the worry originally with the Kounde thing was, why were they going to spend 60 odd million if they were struggling to give 45 million for Ake? Originally they kind of turned their heads to the Ake thing, and then ultimately we were told that Kounde was like fourth in line compared to like Ake and Koulibaly and De Ligt at the time when we was talking about it as well. So, I think what this has shown, if this is true and Chelsea have managed to lay the funds that's required, is that potentially this Jules Kounde thing has never ever been quiet. It's always been in the background. It's always been there. It's not like he's just been forgotten about and we've gone back to it last minute because it's like a panic buy in many ways because we're running out of options for the second centre back. But it just shows that potentially that they do like the idea of him coming here. But you're right, it's not done yet. And as excited that I want to get, because like I've told many people, I'm a big fan of this player. I am trying to keep it cool and calm, and I'm just praying, hoping that Chelsea get it done sooner rather than later. I think Barcelona potentially could be waiting for that second lever to kick in. I don't know when that kicks in, maybe for a release of funds, but is that something that could potentially be the case?
Well, I mean, the second lever is likely to be activated soon, so they can plan for that, especially if they're only making verbal offers at this stage. So it's not a case of having to delay until that money formally comes in, because it's imminent enough that Barcelona will feel that they have the ability to at least get an agreement with Sevilla. The difficulty is just in the valuation of Barcelona with Sevilla. And remember, the legwork that Chelsea have done is important on Kounde, and even the gridlock, simply because that historical gridlock has given Chelsea a sense of what they need to bid to actually get this deal done. And that's why there's been significant progress now over the course of this week. Whereas with Barcelona, they haven't actually had that much direct back and forth with Sevilla. So they will see what is being reported as Chelsea's offer. But as I understand it, their valuation of Kounde is lower than that 60 to 65 million that Sevilla want, maybe to the tune of 15 million or so. So it wouldn't remotely surprise me if Barcelona perceive a deal to be based upon buy-in from the player and then try and bid somewhere closer to 45 or 50 million. And that's where I think Sevilla will just dismiss it. And, everyone's panicking because they feel that it might head to that Rafinha scenario of Chelsea being first, but Barcelona getting the player. But the comparison is glib in many ways because Kounde isn't Rafinha and Sevilla are not Leeds United. And Monchi has made it abundantly clear to Barcelona that he will not be messed around, that there'll be no cut price deal. And all of that is also working against Barcelona. So we're either going to see them swoop decisively and probably pay more than they actually would want to for Jules Kounde, and then it's totally up to the player, or as likely we'll see Barcelona floating around, circling around, pushing the player, trying to get him to say he only wants to join Barcelona, but actually not being substantially that close to a fee with Sevilla. And Chelsea will be able to take advantage of that if they can agree a fee within the next day or two. So it is finely poised. Like I've constantly stressed that this is an open race, but an open race is better from Chelsea's point of view than an inevitable move to Barcelona, which is where Rafinha headed relatively quickly. There was obviously periods during Rafinha where it was a bit more open, and there were periods where it looked like Barcelona weren't going to be able to match anywhere close to the Chelsea offer, and that gave Chelsea hope. But I think Chelsea would have probably termed Rafinha towards the end of the process anyway as a bonus signing, whereas I think that there is a more legitimate confidence that Kounde is a realistic possibility and one they might be able to get over the line in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Interesting stuff. We have to wait and see. It could be as early today, guys, that we see Jules Kounde announced as a Chelsea player. It could not. It could be that Barcelona pull out the dagger and last minute, try and pull the player again. They're going to have to pay more than what Chelsea have done, and that may be enough. But let's see what happens later on today in regards to Jules Kounde. I do want to just quickly talk about Kimpembe as well, because there was a lot of talk around that Chelsea are going to get both Kounde and Kimpembe, and then we hear that there was a fee set for him. PSG were willing to kind of let him go, and then was more news later on after that saying that he's happy in Paris and that PSG kind of still see him in their plans as well. So what's the recent updates on him? Is this something Chelsea are still pursuing, or are they completely reverted to the whole Kounde thing only?
Kimpembe is not impossible, but Kounde is being prioritised. And the reason for that is because Chelsea haven't agreed a fee with PSG, who will listen to offers, but actually see Kimpembe as still part of their plans. And it's not unthinkable that all of the interest in Kimpembe, including from Juventus as well, will lead to a contract being offered where he extends his stay at the Parc des Princes until 2024. And that's not necessarily PSG or Kimpembe playing the suitors. It's more just the reality of a new manager in Christophe Galtier at PSG, who has a lot of time and respect for Kimpembe. So Galtier has said directly to Kimpembe, even if a fee is agreed, it is your choice. And even if we have a full deal in place with Chelsea or another suitor, it's totally up to you if you do or don't want to go. That is what has been communicated to Kimpembe. And Kimpembe has communicated back at the moment that he's very settled in Paris. So because PSG will still listen to offers, it's not unthinkable if Chelsea go back to the table and agree a fee that Kimpembe's mind could be changed. But right now, it's looking less likely or imminent anyway than Kounde, because Kimpembe is just really settled in Paris and he's been a loyal servant to that football club and he's liked in the dressing room. And Galtier and Luis Campos, the sporting director, do not see him as surplus to requirements. So that's the challenge. It's all about convincing the player to move away from Paris. And Chelsea are ahead of Juventus in that respect. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that Juventus have fully ended their interest now that they've got the signing of Bremer from Torino. But Juventus realised very early on that Kimpembe just wouldn't be open to that move. And that, again, was because he just didn't want to go and play in Italy. He didn't want to relocate there. He was content with what he had at PSG. The Premier League move is a bit more intriguing, and Chelsea might be able to play on that. So, as I say, a deal is not 100% dead, but it is looking less and less likely simply because Kimpembe actually would prefer to stay at PSG and be a key part of their squad. And I would say, as of now, it could change later in the window, depending on PSG incomings, that Chelsea have got a lot of work to change his mind. And he is more likely to sign a new contract than he is to move to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, and that kind of squashes the whole thing of Chelsea potentially looking at having three centre-backs in and around this summer window. Levi Colwill may give him an opportunity to be sort of a rotation player now if he accepts that offer. I think rotation's key for Chelsea. And when you look at last season, the amount, even though we had sort of depth there, that it was the quality of the depth that was always the issue, and I think it's going to be important for Tuchel to have the balance of, obviously, experience and young talent across Europe, along with the mix of the academy players that are coming through that have had good years or good seasons in previous for previous football clubs and that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how we balance it out moving forward as well. I keep getting this question in the chat, Ben, and they're asking two questions really. One is wingback targets. Obviously we were linked to Klaus and that went out the window. What do you think? Do you think that there's still an opportunity that Chelsea could entertain a wingback, an additional wingback, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not unthinkable that it's two centre-backs and a wing-back that come into the football club. It's not been overly a priority and won't be, I suppose, until Azpilicueta's future is resolved and or that move to Barcelona happens. Jonathan Klaus is going elsewhere, but was a name that Chelsea had looked at in the earlier part of the window. And I think that it's telling in terms of the profile that Chelsea's tactic was to buy cheaper and add kind of depth in that area. And Klaus's price tag is sort of somewhere in the region of 10 to 12 million. And I think that was the sort of initial appeal of that particular player. But there's more kind of names I think that Chelsea will develop as the window progresses in that wing-back situation once the outgoings are resolved. I'm not aware at this stage of any specific names that have kind of been added to the list. Klaus himself won't be available. Marseille, I think, are on the brink of signing him. Manchester United were vaguely linked, but I don't think there was too much substance in that as well. But when you look at the situation with the wing backs, it would make a lot of sense for Chelsea to add some kind of depth in that area. But I think what you're going to see is 2 centre-backs as the priority. And if they get 2 centre-backs, then Azpilicueta goes. Then still don't rule out Slonina and a goalkeeper addition, and then that second attacking option. And then towards the end of the window, I think you'll see Chelsea come back. And if they have the funds and the desire, based on how pre-season's going and maybe even the early part of the season, that's when in kind of a month's time or so, or even a little bit longer, right towards the end of the window, you start to say, well, do we need that midfielder or do we need that fullback? But I think as of now, the priority is around 2 centre-backs and then another attacker. And then from there onwards, it's just opportunism between now and when the window closes as to whether Chelsea add any more. And by the end of the window, though, I've always said it, I think Chelsea will have...
You said, yeah, you did say that you expect. I thought we'd get a good at least 5 players in. Still think that's possible, to be fair. Who we get in is going to be interesting to see. The wing-back area is an interesting one because I really can't think of anyone out there at the moment. But then this falls down to your scouting department doing their jobs of going to find the next big thing. And so we have to see on with that. Obviously, you mentioned earlier on in the show, Ben, that Hakim Ziyech could potentially still go to AC Milan, or it looks like he could still be going to AC Milan. Attack updates. Obviously, we brought Sterling in. We know Rafinha and Dembele didn't work out. They've gone to Barcelona. Is there any other real links in terms of attacking names that Chelsea could potentially look to get this summer?
Not a great deal at this stage because, as Thomas Tuchel said, they're prioritising the defence. But transfer window is about spinning plates. So you don't literally look for an attacker, come back in an office and then draw up a new attacking shortlist. There'll be targets from the old regime and there'll be deals that are being monitored. And there's a lot of that opportunism that we're not aware of at this stage, even as journalists, because the club just make a split-second decision to enter a race, which was the case, for example, with Chelsea trying to hijack the Gabriel Jesus deal. Lewandowski was not possible and is now at Barcelona, but was a name that Thomas Tuchel definitely rated. And from a attack-minded perspective, rather than an out-and-out forward, Dembele was another one that Thomas Tuchel had made clear to Todd Boehly was a player to investigate, but the wage demands were just too high. So Chelsea are fortunate comparative to the defence in the sense that they do have some depth as far as creative players and goal scorers and assisters are concerned, because Werner's still there, Ziyech is still there, Pulisic is still there, and in the latter's case, I don't see him leaving anywhere. With Ziyech, it's going to be interesting because I think that AC Milan are first looking to wrap up the deal for Charles de Ketelaere from Club Bruges. And I believe, based on what sources tell me, that they will beat Leeds United to that deal. And then after that, they'll have to revisit the Ziyech situation. So there's a clear desire from Ziyech to go to Milan, but Milan are at the moment trying to get de Ketelaere over the line first before perhaps they advance that, which gives Chelsea a little bit of time. And then there's players like Rafa Leao, who is admired by Thomas Tuchel, but the price tag is probably a little bit too high. And that will, in all likelihood, stop Chelsea doing anything with that kind of interest. So there's not too much on the attacking front at the moment in terms of a prioritization, but Chelsea are intent by the time the window closes on Raheem Sterling not being the only attacking incoming.
Yeah, I think we need it as well. I think Sterling for me is still not enough. You let Ziyech go, you have Werner, Pulisic, Havertz, Mount. I think there is still, for me, preferably, I think there's still an option for us to look for an attack, a creative spark, someone that can just create a bit more. Hence why we were probably looking at Rafinha and Dembele for their creative spark and what they can bring. There's mentions that some people saying Anthony, probably again another name just thrown in the pot. Nothing serious from it yet, but just want to move away from that. I just wanted to just ask you this quickly before obviously we look to finish off as well. Is departures, players potentially that can still leave Chelsea. Now, Ross Barkley is an interesting one. Do you think he will stay at Chelsea, or do you think there's a good opportunity that he can go? And is there any other departures at Chelsea that you think may still happen? Obviously, Billy Gilmour has been forced down to the the reserve squad as well. So what's your thoughts on departures at Chelsea?
Yeah, I think Chelsea are open to letting Ross Barkley go, and that's partially because of the wage considerations. And I feel a bit sorry for Barkley in many respects. I don't know what Chelsea fans really think, but my sense on Barkley is that if you look at the form and the player he was when they signed him, you can see the potential is there, but he's a streaky player who needs regular game time. And in 2021, 2022, he played, I believe, 6 times in the Premier League and only scored 1 goal. And he only played 2 games in the season before. So his last significant contribution to Chelsea was in 2019, 2020. And I think that unlike during that first spell at Everton, he's never quite become a goal scorer. And I'm not saying that that has to be the integral part of his game, but I think back to Everton in 2015, 2016, where I believe he scored 8 Premier League goals. And then in the season before, he got 5. And he was always the type of player that would chip in around those numbers, 4, 6, 7, 8 goals. And in his, kind of 5 seasons at Chelsea to date, I think he scored a total of, I believe, 5 Premier League goals. That's an average of 1 Premier League goal a season. And even though the role has changed a bit, and even though I still like the tenacity and the energy that he brings at 28 years of age and on the wages that he's at, it makes complete sense that Chelsea would be looking to offload him. I think he is surplus to requirements, and there is some substance, at least, to rejoining Everton. Frank Lampard is looking at that possibility for sure. But the reason why those stories emerge is because Chelsea are actively using their sort of sway to offer the player out and make it clear to clubs that they think might be a fit that Barkley is available. So I think that he will go during this window. And to be honest, I think it just suits all parties because he hasn't been integral in the last few seasons to Chelsea. He needs game time. He's 28 years of age. And it's one of those where he could easily go somewhere. And even though he's not that core part of Chelsea's midfield at the moment, he could go somewhere and be given a bit more freedom in attacking midfield and suddenly just explode. And then Chelsea fans could look back and say, wow, I wish we had that Barkley. It's a shame we got rid of him. And that's just the reality. But when he gets game time and when he hits a purple patch, I still think he offers value to a Premier League club, but I don't think his future lies at Stamford Bridge anymore beyond this window.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm definitely one of them fans that feels like he needs to go. I think he's been given enough opportunities to really shine, even in games where we've had injuries and he's had to come in and he's not really stepped up. He has a good game here and there, and it's just, again, the same issue that we have with most of our sort of squad depth players that we currently have at the moment. It's just a lack of consistency in their performances. So I don't think Ross Barkley, I'm hoping Ross Barkley goes to us. I don't think Ross Barkley is fully in the plans of Tuchel. We have to wait and see. Rodrigo Rogers did send in the donation. Thank you for that. He's asked, is the Frenkie de Jong deal substantial? Would UCL entice him? We have already spoke about this. I'm assuming you've come in a little bit late on it, but to just sum up really short, Ben, what were you saying?
Yeah, Chelsea's interest in de Jong is genuine, but they won't act until they get any kind of player buy-in, and it's still not a priority position at the moment. So it's one to watch during the window, but Chelsea are aware what the fee is because Manchester United's negotiations were so painful and public that everyone is aware what Barcelona want from the deal. It's about 65 million euros up front, plus the add-ons on top. But de Jong is intent in staying. And there's so much politics around that deal because publicly Barca are saying not for sale. Publicly de Jong is saying he's happy at the football club. But privately, Laporta is offering de Jong to various clubs and encouraging them to bid. And that might be because Barcelona are biding their time and trying to bring in Bernardo Silva, and they need a transfer fee from de Jong to do that. So Chelsea have got some advantages over, say, Manchester United, particularly Champions League football. But right now, there's still no clear indication that de Jong definitely wants out of the Camp Nou. So Chelsea are monitoring the situation. The interest is genuine. It's not just a name that's been plucked out of nowhere. There is something in this. There is smoke, but not fire in the sense of a formal bid yet. being prepared. And obviously, if Chelsea get wind, and it would be the same for Manchester United, that De Jong has made a final decision, that's when things could move a lot quicker. But when people are saying a bid is being prepared at this stage, it's jumping the gun a little bit, because it's not at the time of recording that advanced. Could change in the next week or two, or before the window shuts. Could change if Chelsea get defensive priorities in and then decide to make a big swoop in that area. But right now, I would just say he is a name of interest to Chelsea without actually being a name that they are advancing right now. And, in conversations with Azpilicueta, in conversations with Barcelona, they may continue to ask about him. They may continue to monitor about the situation. But like I say, it's not one yet to get overly excited about, because Chelsea are not at the negotiation table with either Barcelona or De Jong. And it remains to be seen over the next week or two whether that will change. So to be kept an eye on for sure, because there is some substance to it. But beyond that, there's other priorities for Chelsea right now.
Yeah, there you go, guys. There you go. I don't know why, but in the chat, they are mad. They keep asking the same question about this Gavordia from RB Leipzig. I have not heard much of it on social media. I know his potentials that Tuchel has him in his options as a potential player. Have you, just quickly again, have you heard anything on this player?
Yeah, this is Josko Vardiol, and he's an excellent player. That's the first thing to say. And there's huge demand. PSG have looked at him in the past. Manchester City have scouted his services as well. And I think that the reality of the situation, unfortunately, with the player is just that Leipzig are very tough negotiators and would try and command a fee that would in all likelihood be above market value. And that's possibly what has warded off one or two suitors. I know that Spurs, in their very vague, long shortlist of defenders with Bastoni and also historically Skriniar, and Spurs have even looked at Kounde as well in the past, have added Vardiol to the list as well. And the reason for that is because you have a player with excellent decision-making that's very composed at the back and is only 20 years of age. And I think he's just a real kind of all-rounder defender who is solid in nearly every aspect of his game. So I particularly like how strong he is under pressure. He's good at getting interceptions and blocks. He's one of those defenders that always seems to be at the right place at the right time. And he's only going to improve. The weakness, I think, is maybe set pieces and high balls, where he's forced to run backwards, watching both the ball and a defender, and he gets dragged out of position there. But generally, his intelligence and his positional sense is still pretty decent. So it would be a good signing and one that could develop. I think that the price is going to be at least 35 million quid, if not closer to 40. And that will put off one or two suitors, and Leipzig are not going to be easy to negotiate with. So it's one to keep across. He would be one for the future. He would be a coup for whoever gets him due to the level of interest. But Chelsea, for now, are looking to try and get Kounde over the line. They still haven't given up on Kimpembe. And then if they were not to get both, and I think Kimpembe is a struggle, then Vardiol is the type of player that may creep onto the short list or really long list as far as the number of defenders Chelsea are actually looking at. But make no mistake, he is a very, very good player who is in high demand and could conceivably go this window. But whoever comes in for him is going to have a tough negotiation with Leipzig.
There you go, guys. There you go. I'm going to let Ben go. I'm going to continue for the next 20 minutes or so, just going through a bit of some news over Twitter that I've just found as well. I want to thank you, Ben, again for coming on to both the Chelsea Fan TV and GNA TV and just, enlightening us with your news as always, mate. We appreciate you always giving your time for this channel as well. Just any final words for yourself, really?
Just to watch the Kounde as it develops. And I think by close of play today, we are going to see a lot more clarity. It's almost a shame that we recorded so early because Chelsea are deep in talks trying to get that fee. And they believe they are closing in on Jules Kounde. So still remains to be seen what Barcelona's move is, but hopefully have some news for you on that later in the day. And always enjoy coming on.
No worries. Ben, take care of yourself. Thank you very much, mate. And we'll see you again shortly. Obviously, hopefully with some news on players that are actually Chelsea players as well. So let's go.
Look forward to it. All the best.
Take care. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye. There you go, guys. Ben Jacobs with the breaking Chelsea news for the last hour or so right here. But I thought I'd just quickly go through with you guys the tweet that's just come in regards to Di Marzio. Di Marzio has brought out this comment here, basically saying that Chelsea is closing in on the Jules Kounde, is closing on Jules Kounde for a figure of 50 million euros plus bonuses. There you go, guys. 50 million euros plus bonuses is what we're looking at as well. I've been reading some other tweets as well. We've got one from Simon Phillips that says Sevilla press adamant that Kounde is joining Chelsea. We've also got that one earlier that we shared with you that said Sevilla's manager said this morning that Kounde arrived in Sevilla but did not train because his departure is imminent. Today should be the day we get closure. And it feels, obviously I ain't going to talk too early on this, but it does feel like, you know, we are getting closer. We're coming to the end of what's been an absolute dragged out saga in Jules Kounde. Do I feel that he should have been bought in earlier, you know, and I'm talking about last season? 100% yes. I think Jules Kounde is someone that Chelsea should have opted to bring in sooner. It hasn't been done. Sanctions kicked in. We were told that Kounde would have been bought after the sanctions. Obviously, Marina got sacked, and then there was a massive alternation between getting rid of Marina, Tuchel and Barkley choosing their priorities. I wouldn't say Kounde was never a priority, guys. And when you don't hear, and I've always said this, everyone that knows me on social media have heard what I've said. When it comes to Chelsea and players going quiet, it doesn't specifically mean that there's nothing going on. I know Ake and De Ligt news dominated for a little while and they were in talks, this, that and the other. But there was always the case that Chelsea had interest in Jules Kounde. This news around Tuchel not wanting him or doesn't see him as much ultimately doesn't make any sense. When Nathan Ake was 45 million, which he was 45 million, and we're looking to off 50 million euros plus bonuses for Jules Kounde. That in itself tells you that I feel that Tuchel and Todd Boehly look at this player and are looking at him as an option to, looking at him as maybe a better option moving forward. I think it would be a great signing. You could have a central back three of Kounde, Thiago Silva, and Koulibaly as your back three, guys. How do you feel about that? Does that make you guys happy? Big up to Concierge in the house as well. Guys, I'm going to give you another 15 minutes to come on and have your say. All right, the link is in the chat. All right, we're going to bring you in one by one. I ain't going to be doing an open panel today. We'll be getting back to the open panel shows very, very soon. Sorry, I've just not been able to do as many streams as I can. The ones that I am doing are more transfer show related, breaking down the news and getting through it. But let's get these likes up, guys. Subscribe to GNA TV, subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV as well. Still over 1,300 of you guys here combined. Big up to every single one of you guys. The link's in the chat. So if you are or do want to come in and have your say on the Jules Kounde news or anything that Ben's mentioned, it could be Frenkie de Jong, it could be the Barkleys that we spoke about, it could be the Kimpempes, whatever it is that you want to talk about. Please click the link. The link is in the chat for you guys. Now, Di Marzio's brought that out. It sounds like it is going to be 50 million euros for Jules Kounde to Chelsea. Bring me the Jules. Everyone knows my feelings for all the Jules. We'll see what people say in the chat. Jem, you're doing a Twitter space for the match tonight. No, I'm not. I don't think I'll be awake that early in the morning. I'll try to. I don't even know what time the kickoff is. What time is kickoff tonight for Chelsea? What time is kickoff tonight? Big up to Sir Timo Werner. No worries. Big up to you. Big up to Strip Bear in the house. Nice to see her as well. Well, we spoke about the De Jong news already. He made it very clear that Barcelona are kind of using De Jong to to attract attention, to get him sold, to get people interested in the player himself. Chelsea are obviously looking at it as an option. Nothing's come in as of yet from Chelsea for the player, but Barcelona are looking to Barcelona looking to shift him by the looks of it, even though he wants to stay. Kounde to Chelsea, or he's Krusty the Clown. He's not Krusty the Clown, mate. He's not Krusty the Clown. The link is in the chat, so if you guys want to come in, have your say, I'll bring you in. We've got a couple of people in at the back already. I'll add the link in one more time for you to come in. Let's get through you quickly and have a chat. Let's start with Chili Dre. Chili Dre, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, Jen. How you doing?
I'm all right, brother. I'm all right. What's your thoughts on what we've been listening to in regards to Ben Jacobs? What is it you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to ask about the RB Leipzig defender.
Go for that.
What's news around him, the RB Leipzig defender?
Yeah. Well, what is it you want to say on him?
I want to ask him if it's possible for us to get him, and I want to know what's doing right now at RB Leipzig. But the last time I heard, I came across news about him that he wants to extend, or he likes to stay at RB Leipzig, or probably he wants to get a spot for a World Cup. So he wants his place. He wants to play regularly. So I guess that was the last news I heard about him. So I don't know what is news currently.
So the news that Ben Jacobs brought out on him was that he is a player in demand. He's a player that you could potentially get for around 35 to 40 million, which I think is a pretty good steal. Chelsea can potentially have him on one of their lists. There's other clubs that are interested. He didn't mention the clubs. Whether Chelsea actually look to entertain it, we don't know yet. Nothing's come from Chelsea for Gvardiol yet, but he is a player that is on the list and is hugely admired. That's all we know at the moment.
All right. Thank you.
No worries. Take care, my man. Talk to you in a bit. Thank you for coming on. Take care.
Yeah, Jim.
Take care. We're going to jump on to who we got on here. We've got DCFC. How you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. What's happening?
All good, my man. All good. Just wanted to get your thoughts. You got any questions? Anything you want to talk about specifically?
No, I'm just thinking, like, the guy from RB Leipzig, like, it really, I don't see the need, honestly, because we have Colwill, like, that could do the same thing he's doing with, like, opportunity given to him. So you might as well just, save your money. Once you save your money, you can spend your money anywhere else. Like, just give Colwill the chance, because this guy is going to be on the bench for most part of it, thinking about it, and that quality time could be given to develop our own player. I don't see us going for 3 centre-backs. I see us getting 2 centre-backs at the end of the day, because if we had the director of football, we won't be looking at 3 centre-backs. We'll be looking at 2. But hey, we're trying to make the coach happy. So I'm not saying I'm happy we missed out on certain deals, but I'm happy they didn't happen. Like, this is what's best for the team.
I hear that. What's your thoughts on Jules Kounde to Chelsea? Are you a fan?
I think it's a beautiful addition, especially in the back three. Like, being in the back three gives him the ability to pick the duels he wants to go into and ones he doesn't have to go into. Because if it's in a back two, he has only one man. But if it's in a back three, like, Silva could go in for some, Koulibaly could go in for some. Yeah. But in the situation where it's a back two, you really can't pick, and there's only so much you could do with, like, a natural disadvantage, which is your height. So yeah, I feel like it's a great deal. I love it. Like, I love it.
Yeah. I'm massively excited for the player as well, man. I do hope it's something that we
over Barcelona real quick.
Sorry?
We need one over Barcelona. Like, we need to get one over them.
One over on them, yeah, 100%. I agree. I think the Barcelona fans are getting very I just got some news here. Sorry, I was just going to bring it up, actually. I think the Barcelona's get very cocky. They just think, because they're Barcelona and their pedigree, that they can just sign every player. We've got a comment here from Simon Phillips saying that I'm now told that we are very close to agreeing a fee to sign Jules Kounde. I understand that Begdad Eghbali is the one closing negotiations on this deal, which potentially means Todd Boehly is working on other deals. So Todd Boehly hasn't been leading the deal on this one. It's been Begdad Eghbali, the owner of Clear Lake Capital, that has been dealing with the negotiations for Jules Kounde to Chelsea, guys. Some breaking news there for you. Interesting stuff. So what's Todd Boehly doing? That means Todd Boehly's somewhere else trying to sort out other things as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens later. But
Let
big
me
up to
do
you,
very quick,
DCFC, man.
very quick.
Sorry, mate.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Take care, mate. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Right, we've got NJ. NJ, what you saying, mate?
How you doing, buddy? Are you right?
Not bad. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. Okay, no, I've got just a few issues here with regard to Jules Kounde. I know that our club have been chasing Jules Kounde for a long, but I just want to hear your opinion. Has actually Thomas Tuchel had a conversation with Jules Kounde of lately, maybe?
Well,
You know why Yes, you know why I'm asking that is that it will be fruitless for us to chase Jules Kounde when our manager hasn't actually been in contact with the player. We just don't want to repeat of Rafinha story.
Yeah, so the clear answer to that for me is when you look at the Koulibaly deal and you look at the Sterling deal, it's been made very clear in that the way that we negotiate deals with players, that once Todd Boehly has found the player that he feels is a potential opportunity for Chelsea, it gets run through Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel gives the okay. I'm assuming Thomas Tuchel is also talking to these players before they come. He has to talk to them because why? He has to give them an idea of how he's going to use them. It's not only the negotiation element of trying to bring a player across. It's how is the player going to fit in your system. And if I'm going to be bought by one of the biggest teams and I've got another big team chasing me who are interested in me as well, I'm going to want to talk to the manager to understand fully what his ideas are for me before I make the decision. So my answer to that is if Jules Kounde is close to Chelsea and the negotiations between Mr. Egbali and Sevilla have gone well, I would assume that Thomas Tuchel's had conversations with Jules Kounde to give him an idea of how important he is and how he thinks he's going to fit in. And that's only based on when you look at what we've done with Koulibaly and what we've done with Sterling. They've both confirmed and said that they've spoken to the manager before they made the decisions to come across. So I would say the answer to that is yes.
Okay. Yeah. And again, I would like to say big up to Rafinha and Dembele. You see what these two players has done. I think it's just overwhelming. I mean, a player accepting a wage cut just because he loves the club. I mean, big up to that. And you know what? And I'm expecting again Jules Kounde, because Jules Kounde, he's shown us in the past that he's got love for Chelsea, and I expect him to do the same. To be, I won't say to be loyal to us, but he has shown that he's open to come to London. And another, maybe my last issue with Barcelona. I mean, I just don't know how are they doing this, because I'm getting an idea that Barcelona and Real Madrid and Juventus are parts of the UEFA. Because if it was Chelsea who are conducting all this shady businessing, signing all these players, where else other players of the club are being owed such money would have been investigated a long time ago. How are they doing this? How are they pulling this off, mate?
No one knows yet, mate. I don't even know where they're getting their money, how they're able to find. And we know that they're selling their soul by selling their TV rights to get money for. So at the moment, they're literally selling parts of their club just to buy players and get 200 million to use and whatever. And that's why they want the second lever to kick in, so that they can obviously use the additional 200 million plus funds to bring in more players on top of that, and maybe pay players that they've already just bought on recently as well. But NJ, big up to you, man. I've got other people at the back as well. Thank you for coming on, brother. Take care of yourself, yeah?
Great show. Big mates. Keep it up.
Keep it up, bro. See you later. Take care. Take care. Right, we've got Hassan, Erin, and Tobago to come soon, but we're going to go to Innocent next. Innocent, what are you saying? You're muted. Innocent, you going to talk? He's not going to talk, which means I have to let him go. Erin, what are you saying?
Yeah, you all right?
You're not bad, brother. How are you?
Well, the first thing, let's just say Kounde gets done. Like, we've gone from thinking we was going to get Ake and De Ligt to Koulibaly and Kounde, which I think most would agree is much better, don't you think?
listen, you ain't gonna ask me twice. You know my my answers. I was pulling my hair out when we were going to sign Ake for like 50 odd million. I was just like, that makes no sense. Jules Kounde is what is it to say? The player fits the system perfectly. He's not the complete player. He's a top player. But what people forget is that bringing a player like Jules Kounde in with a manager like Thomas Tuchel can only get better for me. I think Thomas Tuchel will get the best out of Jules Kounde and actually improve his game. And I think there's a quality player in him that's going to give us a lot of versatility, give us a lot on the pitch as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it?
Yeah. One thing also is I like the way how, like especially in the Premier League, when you're at the playing around the back, you need to have a lot of composure as a defender. And I feel like when Kounde's got the ball, he's very good with his feet. He can get the ball out. He can progress up the field. So I think that'll be good in our system. But the only thing that I was thinking, because didn't reports come out a bit back that if Kounde was to come in, then he would be played at right wing back for a couple of games to get used to the Premier League.
Yeah,
because if that's true, then I mean it would only be for like the first couple of games, I reckon. But yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so just quickly before I answer that, there's a comment from Rashad Rashman who's commented Gerard Romero's comments that basically it says Skriniar, Saliba, Guvardal, Ingo Martinez, and Roger Ibanez are options if Kounde doesn't come. So that's the most recent from Gerard Romero, the guy that sits there shouting and humping walls, shall we say, and saying there's something happening. So I don't know. Let's see. Maybe he's not as confident. We'll have to see what happens with that. But going back to your question, I think Jules Kounde is being bought to play in his position, which is as a right centre back. I don't see why you play him as a wing back. I think the central back area is his position, and actually, in many ways, is probably better for him to sort of gel in more in a position that he's more comfortable in than rather playing him in a position where he's going to have to use a lot more energy up and down the pitch and have a lot of pressure on him doing so. We have Reece James; he can play there. You play Reece James there. You play Jules Kounde behind him, and that right-hand side then becomes a brick wall for me, along with Koulibaly and Ben Chilwell. Our flanks then are looking very, very good as Chelsea fans and opportunistic. But it's not the end of what we need to sort out. There's a lot that still needs to be sorted, like we keep saying. So it's definitely a good step in the right way, mate, 100%.
Can I just say one more thing?
Go on, mate.
Say if we do move to a back four, which I think we actually will, who do you like? I know obviously of rotation, but do you because Thiago was 38? Do you see like a Koulibaly Kounde link up at the back there?
See, I'm quite comfortable. I know a lot of people don't want to see Koulibaly and Silva or even Koulibaly and Kounde. I am comfortable in Koulibaly and Kounde being a central back of the four. Kounde at Sevilla plays at the central back. He's also played right back, but ultimately he's played a lot of games as a centre back for Sevilla and he's done it quite comfortably. So this thing of, he can only play in a free system, that just tells me you do not watch Jules Kounde. Part of the reason why we're spending this money and bringing in a player like him is because of his versatility and what he offers. And that's the key. Tuchel is looking at players that he can bring in that are versatile. And when you look at Sterling, his options of being able to how to use him. Koulibaly, another example. You want to play him in a 3 or a 4, right or left, it will suit. Kounde, off the right, straight away, want to play him right back, even though I don't ultimately like him right back. I prefer to see him in the centre back option, but he can play along 3 different options there. And that's what I'm trying to get to people, that Tuchel and Bowley look like they're trying to sign players that ultimately bring us flexibility and options. And that suits the way Tuchel likes to manage and do things moving forward as a manager as well. But mate.
Yeah. Have a good stream, yeah?
Yeah, no worries, man. Take care of yourself, brother. I'll talk to you in a bit, yeah?
Yeah,
see you later. Take care. We've got a tweet from Ben Jacobs, who was on here about 20 minutes ago, before we just get on the last two. Basically says that Chelsea expect to agree a fee with Sevilla for Jules Kounde today for around 60 million euros, including add-ons. Sevilla want a deal wrapped up by Thursday latest when they travel to Portugal. Kounde very open to CFC move and expects to know his next club by the end of the week. And then he goes on to say Barcelona have been told by Monchi they must make a move or walk away, and that the offer must be a straight line cash deal. If both clubs agree with fee with Sevilla, it will naturally all come down to Kounde. But right now, Chelsea are closing in and remain the favourites. Kounde did not train today as well, which we already know as well. So a little bit of more news on there. Hassan, what are you saying, mate?
Yeah. How are you, man? How you been in the heat?
I'm all right, mate. Not bad. Just about surviving. How about you? You all right?
Yeah, man. I've been enjoying the last couple of days, worrying about the youth players. You know how it is, man. Just go and enjoy the weather while it's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the departures and all of that kind of stuff, right? I'm just, I think our departures are mainly going to be youth players, loans. I think Colwill will probably be on loan. I don't think we're probably going to put him on permanent deal. I don't think it'll be. I think it's kind of stupid if we sell him on a permanent deal, but I don't know. It depends if he's going to fight for his place. Broja, I kind of rate him. I actually want him to be as a backup. There's not many. I mean, we have attackers that score like 5 goals a year, 6 goals a year, probably max 8. I think he'll be able to break through, but it's a bit unfortunate that he's been injured. Kounde, obviously, besides trolling you yesterday and saying that he's going to Barcelona, winding you up, I think he's definitely a Chelsea player. But Barca don't have the money. Why do you think every club is asking for straight up cash and they don't want a bidding war? They can't afford to go to another bidding war and take it to 65, 70 million euros, you know what I mean? So I think Kounde is going to be a nice addition to our squad. He's definitely going to be an Aspi replacement. It depends if a third one's coming in. I don't know if a third one's coming in or not. If third one comes in, Colwell's gone. Gallagher, I'm excited to see him break through. I think he's going to be a wonderful addition, a wonderful rotation with Kovacic. And now once Kounde comes in, I think we have to worry about the outgoings now because literally we need to get rid of half of them. And Todd and his consortium have all said that we've got these bums essentially on high wages and we need to get rid of them. I think that's the only concern. And to be honest, they get, like I said before, they get paid to stress. We don't. So stop
100%.
stressing about things. Stop stressing about things we can't control all over Twitter.
What was interesting for me mostly is what Simon Phillips brought out earlier about Barkley taking control of the negotiations. So we haven't got one key negotiator. We've got 2 people negotiating out in the market. Todd Boehly, Barkley, who is the owner of Clear Lake Capital, is the one that's been negotiating the deal for Jules Kounde, is what Simon Phillips says as well. So that means that Todd Boehly must be elsewhere doing things at the moment, or even maybe taking a break. Who knows? But, I don't think so. I think he's probably on other ideas. We'll have to see what happens moving forward. But Hassan, thanks, brother. I'll talk to you in a bit, yeah?
Thank you, man. Yeah, talk to you later.
Yeah, see you later. Tobogo, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. What do you want to say?
First of all, I would like to say all the fans were saying Todd Boehly and our new owners are slow. We can't buy players because of them. They should just chill and relax because it's too early. And then now we are seeing the results. They are fighting for Thomas Tuchel in order to get his targets. Yes, we won't get all targets, but again, at least they are trying. That shows something. That shows commitment. So, again, I would like us to get Jules Kounde in order to replace likes of Azpilicueta. And again, for example, like Rhys James is playing alone as a right back. So we need someone who can interchange with him if he's injured or tired. So if you're going to secure this deal, I'll be happy, man.
You're right, mate. You're right. The one thing that Chelsea fans were saying was that we're too slow, this, that, and the other. Some people may feel we've left it a little bit late with pre-season, and maybe we could have got these deals done earlier. Maybe we were just not able to do that. And part of the reason is because we were a month behind all the other teams, the negotiations and whatever. By the time Todd Boehly got announced as the new owner, we were already chasing the pack, and now it's just really good to see that we are acting and we're trying to get things done, even though we're a month behind all other clubs. In terms of, like targeting players and having negotiations and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jules Kounde gets done today, if Barcelona decide to ruffle up and shake the curtains a bit. We'll have to see what will happen at a later today. But I am hoping and I am praying that it's going to be an answer today, so that we can just move on from this saga, because it has dragged out, since last year to this point. I honestly thought that this would have got done a lot more sooner, and it hasn't. So let's see what happens. And hopefully Barcelona are just going to leave this one aside now and allow us to enjoy. And like people saying, great meal, wonderful food. We'll be able to eat nice. Tobogo, thank you, bro. I'll talk to you in a bit, yeah?
Thank you, sir.
Take care. There you go, guys. And just to finish off with what we were saying here as well, I'm now told that we are very close to agreeing a fee to sign Jules Kounde, is what Simon Phillips has said. He understands that Begdad Egbali is the one closing negotiations on this deal, which potentially means Todd Bowley is working on other deals, which is a very interesting, very, very interesting comment as well. We've seen this one as well, Faisal. Thank you for that, my man. I haven't seen this, my bro. You keep asking me about Oshman links. I've not heard any of them. You know, I've not heard any links. What about Dion? We've spoke about that later in the show. Yeah, go back. Obviously, we had Ben Jacobs on the show, so go back if you want to review some of the comments that he come out with. We spoke Kounde, we spoke Frenkie de Jong, we spoke Kimpembe. We spoke a whole load of Chelsea stuff today. We spoke a whole load of Chelsea stuff. There is no here we go. Don't do this to me now. There's no Ornstein dagger. There's no Matt Law dagger. There's no Fabrizio Romano dagger yet. However, Barcelona have been told by Sevilla chief, no, that's what Ben Jacobs has said as well. So no, other than that, guys, we're in a position where it looks very, 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 very close. Barcelona, whether they're going to match Chelsea's bid, yet to be wait and seen. It may even be done. It may even be the case that Jules Kounde is a done player. There's been video seen of him signing, saying thank you to Sevilla fans who were saying to him, you know, congratulations on either your move, but do not go to Barcelona. And he laughs and smiles on the video that CFC Pies put out as well. But guys, make sure you smash them likes. Get these over. What we got at the moment on GNA TV, 443 of you guys here, 221 likes, guys. Let's get this up to 300 likes. Leave a comment below. Please leave a comment below on today's show. If you've got any comments that you'd like to answer, a question or whatever, put it in there. With the Chelsea Fan TV, guys, 715 of you guys here. Big up to every single one of you guys. You're on 411 likes. Let's try and get this up to 500 likes on the Chelsea Fan TV side. I will be back as soon as we get any sort of break-ins on any news on Jules Kounde or any other players involved at Chelsea. We will continue doing these transfer shows, transfer show updates and reviews and chats throughout the Chelsea summer window. And then after, we'll see. We'll see if we can start doing match day shows and whatever else. We do that over on GNA TV. Guys, if you are new to GNA TV, please go and check us out as well. So Chelsea Fan TV members, if you're new and you don't know GNA TV, please go and subscribe to that channel. And GNA TV, please go and subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV as well. Let's help each other grow. Let's help both these channels grow together. And we will continue to bring you... bring you news, bring you conversations, bring you debate shows, bring you match review shows. There's so much to go through in and around Chelsea. It's going to be an exciting summer window, an exciting season for us as well. Still over 1,200 of you guys here. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. I'll be back very, very soon. Take care and up the Chels. Bring the crown jewels home. Bring the crown jewels home. Hashtag Jules Blues. Hashtag Kounde is blue. See you later, guys.